All right, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, 1281 will provide meaningful electricity bill relief for APCO customers by creating a pilot program, allowing them to access affordable electricity from the competitive retail market. The packet that was just handed out contains 136 comments that represent a person, a family, a livelihood that is impacted by skyrocketing APCO rates. And I would like to begin this presentation by quoting two gentlemen who testified during APCO's most recent rate case before the SEC in September 2024. And one was William Ressinger from the Virginia Poverty Law Center. And he says, Appalachian Power is before you today seeking a major base rate increase for the second time in 12 months. The company received a $127 million base rate increase that went into effect in January of 2024. They're asking for another approximate $64 million increase today. The company also received an increase to its rate of return that went into effect in January of this year, and the company is back again asking for another increase to its authorized profit level. The evidence this week will show that customers simply cannot afford it. The typical residential customer bill for a customer using 1,000 kilowatt hours per month went from $66 per month in 2007 to $172 today. The evidence that were over 40,000 APCO customers were disconnected for non-payment during the 2023 review period alone. Meade Browder, which is the Consumer Counsel of the AG's office, also said, when the Consumer Counsel appears before the Commission, we are always mindful of the impact that your decisions will have on ratepayers, but I'm not sure I've ever been more cognizant of the dire circumstances of many of the consumers we represent as I am in this case, and how they are looking to this Commission for some relief from yet another Appalachian Power Company rate increase. And he also says, I hope we will not lose sight of the people who will bear the impact of the outcome of this proceedings. APCO customers, Mr. Chair, is our constituents, and they simply cannot afford the high electricity rates they are being charged. We have this bill before us proposes that the State Corporation Commission and APCO take immediate actions to provide lower cost options through a municipal aggregation pilot program. This is not forever. This is a pilot program. And these programs are already permitted in Virginia's law and work effectively around the country. My proposal would also limit this to APCO's territory only and include a sunset date. This program would allow municipalities in APCO's service territory the option to aggregate residential, commercial, and industrial customers to shop to secure a lowest possible price for electricity. Municipalities will be required to notify the SEC ahead of time. It's also directing the SEC to conduct a full analysis of the program to identify the benefits that accrued to these participants, as well as making us aware of any potential adverse impacts that has occurred. So I want to talk about just a couple of the benefits of municipal aggregation. First, it's price stability. Offer pricing in terms that municipalities prescribes. It's self-funded. There's no burden on the local budgets. Consumer protection. Contract terms are designed to protect customers. Municipalities can vet SCC licensed suppliers for residents and businesses through government procurement procedures. Community control. Municipalities can set its own goals, long-term fixed rates, preferred mix of energy, opt-in, opt-out. It's not required. And then continue to benefit from existing programs, plans, and assistance. And then lastly, reliability. Local utilities continue to respond to service outages or other emergencies and otherwise provides reliable delivery service. Mr. Chair, the packet that I give you, I want to just read one of the constituents, what that they have asked us. Senator Pillion is also the chief co-patron of this bill. And this is a lady on behalf of her grandmother. It is number 12 in your handout. It says, "Good evening. I'm writing on behalf of my grandmother, who lives in Marion, Virginia. She's 78 years old, lives alone. She only has one income, and that's her Social Security check. Every time I go to her house, she has all her lights off, all of her appliances that she isn't using unplugged. For the past 2 months, her electricity bill has went up increasingly to the point that she doesn't know how she's going to pay it. For December, her light bill was $321.38, and this month it was $490.86. She keeps every light off and the appliances unplugged, and yet her bill still increases. I live in Bristol, Virginia, and have BVU as my electric, water, and sewage, and my bill has never went past $200. This has something to say on how AEP is operating. My grandmother has severe anxiety, and AEP has only made this anxiety worse for her when figuring out her bills and how to pay them. For this month, when she pays all her bills, she will only have $112 to live off of. She will not be able to survive without help next month. This handout has 136 comments from constituents that have taken the time to write their comments, heart-wrenching stories. I have talked to Appalachian Power for the last 4 years. I brought them to the table, along with other legislators, and told them this cannot continue. We are seeing 50 to 60% increases above other utility providers in the state. And Mr. Chairman, our constituents cannot afford to do that. We have people that have drove 6 hours today, spending their own time and money to come to Richmond to talk to this committee and to talk to these people, to tell them we must have relief. This is a common sense pilot program that has a sunset date, that has been proven to work very effectively in other states. There has not been one state that has tried this that has went back. Now, I know you're going to hear testimony from other energy and utility companies. This is the camel poking their nose under the tent. But can I say to you, Mr. Chairman, this committee, maybe it's time the camel pokes its nose under the tent to show Appalachian Power we are not going to stand by and let them charge 50 to 60% more in our territory. Our constituents are below the poverty line. We have some of the most poorest people in our part of the state. They're the most vulnerable, and they're being taken the greatest advantage. So we have the buck stops with us.
I think Senator Eben has a question.
Yes.
I had two, Mr. Chairman. I wanted to ask what limitations are there on this pilot program in that how do you decide or limit how many people would participate at once in this?
Yes. Let me call somebody up to speak to that.
It's dangerous.
Thank you, Senator Hackworth and Senator Eben. My name is Ron Cerniglia. I'm a retired executive from NRG Energy. I'm a former state energy regulator with the New York State Public Service Commission. This bill proposed by Senator Hackworth has a number of consumer protections, including going to the State Corporation Commission, requiring a filing by APCO with input from parties. So there's a whole host of protections built into it. Specific to your question, this is a consumer-friendly bill from the perspective of the municipality is making the decisions, so they can decide if it's opt-in or opt-out.
So to
and
follow up,
customers.
Mr. Chairman, could every municipality in APCO's service territorial opt out at once and then later decide to opt in? Is that how it would go?
So the way this would work, each municipality would notify the State Corporation Commission and say we are planning to aggregate in an opt-out or opt-in scenario. And then at the end of the period, the State Corporation Commission would issue a report to you, to the chairman of this committee.
So
and
it would
House
be up to the
committee.
locality, not an individual ratepayer. It'd be up to the locality.
That is correct.
Every locality could opt in at once, and then they could opt back. If they weren't happy with the result, they could opt back into APCO later on.
Absolutely. There's maximum, the senator has put in maximum flexibility in this
And
bill.
there would have to be a report to the SCC sometime in 2027. At the end of 2028, the pilot project is done.
That's correct.
Well, I understand it's a real problem, and you've done a great job representing your constituents and representing. Now, unless there are more questions from the committee, I want here. Senator Stanley's got questions.
Of the patron.
Yes.
And I know, Travis, you and I, we've struggled with this and struggled with our utility company. Have they ever explained to you why the power bill on this side of the line is lower than it is, say, in a neighboring state?
Mr. Chair and Senator
State.
Stanley, they have not. And a prime example of that is AEP has power in Kingsport, Tennessee, and they have power in Wise County, Virginia. Wise County, Virginia, AEP owns the lines. It's $173. You go across the line in Tennessee, AEP Kingsport, it's $133 per 1,000. We have asked why the difference. We have not got an answer for that, Mr. Chair, Senator Stanley.
Mr. Chair.
Senator Stanley.
And you and I have talked to them a lot to try to find a reasonable solution, have we not?
Mr. Chair, Senator Stanley, yes, we have had several conversations over the past 3 years, and I think the word that I was quoted using was tone deaf. I think that's accurate.
And, Mr. Chairman, I was told I wasn't listening from an executive. We were telling them to be better stewards and be better partners and have a relationship with our people. And we realized at that time, I think you asked a question around that time, how many rate increases did they get in 1 year? Just go back just a little bit. How many rate increases did we suffer?
Mr. Chair, Senator Stanley, I don't have that in front of me, but it was several. I know that the last rate increase was $95.8 million, and the SCC only awarded them, I think, $9 million, thankfully. But several rate increases has been every year. Every year there's another rate increase against our objections.
Mr. Chairman, one more. And I just got communication when I was at my son's basketball game from a police officer, very fine police officer. His bill is now $800 a month in Franklin County. Are you hearing similar stories as I heard this past Saturday?
Mr. Chair and Senator Stanley, I just had a text message today showing that one individual for 1 month was $1,967 for a residential power bill. $1,900
$1,900 for one
for
family.
1 month, one family. And if you look through those 136 comments, you will see that is the scenario repeated time and time again.
One final, second
Senator
final.
Stanley.
And in fact, we had issues, did we not, when Hurricane Helene came through in some of our areas in Grayson County, Carroll County, Wythe County, where we were concerned about the lack of responsiveness in them getting the power back on. Can you explain that very briefly in terms of when I was talking about them not being a good neighbor and a good partner and a good steward with the people that they serve?
Mr. Chair and Senator Stanley, I would answer that question. You know, I've been in construction since 1992. I've dealt with Appalachian Power since 1992. I have seen a digression since 1992. We have spoken to Appalachian Power when I was on the Richlands Town IDA, when I was on the Planning Commission, when I was Board of Supervisors. The vegetation growth has increased. The reason that we had such loss during Hurricane Helene is because decades of vegetation removal had not been done. When you look at the power outage across the Commonwealth, we was one of the worst because trees, vegetation that should have been removed for decades was not removed. There will be a rate case that will be before the SCC this year for them to ask to raise the rates yet again for the storm damage, when I stand here and tell you that at least 50 to 60% of that damage could have been prevented if they would have removed it when they should have removed it. So to the senator's question, they have not been good neighbors. They have not done what they were supposed to do.
Okay, thank you. Senator Stanley's got more questions. Thank you. Thank you. Well, we are now at the point where we're going to take some testimony, and we've got a long document.